Welcome to 15241 Today Talk, and thank you very much for joining us. Our producer director is Glenn Ward, our coordinating producer Linda Denzinski, and Jim and I are most pleased to have with us former Upper St. Clair star, former Pitt star, guy that's been with the Buffalo Bills and the XFL. Doug Whaley is with us. Doug, thanks very much for joining us. Let me ask you at the start of the interview, at what age did you know you will love football and wanted to be a football player?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And to answer your question, I was 5 years old. My dad was coaching. My brother's 5 years older than me, and he was coaching my brother in football. And I would go to practice, and the age limit was 6, and I was still 5 at the time because I have a late birthday. I have a late September birthday. So you had to be 6 in August to compete. Well, I may have stretched the bubble gum a little bit, and they didn't check my birth certificate, but I stepped on the field when I was 5 years old, and my dad said, before you get on this field, I'm only going to do this if you understand one thing. You got to really like being hurt or pain. He said, not hurt, but pain, because it's going to be a painful sport. And I said, I'm all in. After that first practice, that was it. I was hooked.
How much of a plus was it for you to be raised in Upper St. Clair?
I tell you this much, and I tell everybody, it's not only because of the education, because the education prepared me for going into college and after college, but it was the people and the values that were instilled in you by the people of Upper St. Clair, especially head coach, all the family friends that I've had. That some of my best friends are still friends from high school. I see them every day. I was with Kevin Ory yesterday. So just the fact that you have that value set, that a lot of times when you go on to other places, it's not always the same when you meet people. So it set me up for future success.
I'll let Jim jump in here in a minute, but let me ask you this. I'm sure he yelled at you a few times.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But when did you realize that you loved this guy?
I remember I loved this guy when we were, I don't know if he'll remember, it was going into our senior year, and we had a pretty good junior year. Our junior year, we won the Whippeals, weren't allowed to go to states, but they rectified that, gave us the idea, gave the go-ahead that if we make it this year, we win the Whippeals, we can go to states. And it was a summer workout. And Pete Habib and I, we were the backfield tandem, and we were feeling our oats a little bit, let's just say that. Had our chest a little pumped up, a little bit, beating it, and we were in a summer workout, and we weren't really going as hard as we could. And all he did was he said this one thing to us, and I'll never forget. Stop reading your press clippings. You need to work to win. That's when I was like, this guy, coach, he puts me, and it wasn't berating me anything. He just set me up and set us up to know that the press clippings aren't going to get you where you want to go. It's the hard work. And those are the type of things and that he instilled in us and instilled in me that I still carry to this day.
Jim, what made Doug Whaley such a good football player, and what makes him such a great person?
We discovered very early in his high school career that not only was he a pretty good athlete, but he was very intelligent, and he knew the game. And I remember, I don't know if I've ever told you this or not, we were having a coaches meeting when he was a sophomore. And I said to the other guys, the other coaches, I said, it's crazy how much responsibility we've given this young man as a sophomore to make calls in the defense and to make changes. And, he was just a guy that jumped out. And I think that's why he's been successful at every level, because not only does he have some ability, but he's got the brains to back it all up. And he will be back. He will be back in the National Football League. That's my prediction here on August 10th, 2020, because he's too talented, not to be in the game on a day-to-day basis. So, he, as a high school football player, coaches win awards, but we don't win awards unless there's players. So, yes, I was the coach of the year in 1989 when we won that state championship. But the player of the year in the state of Pennsylvania was Doug Whaley. So, and I thought it was interesting you mentioned being with Kevin Ory. Mm-hmm. The thing that marvels to me about that team of 1989, they are still friends. They still see each other a lot. And to my knowledge, none of them have ever been in trouble. They're just hardworking guys that still enjoy each other's company. And it's great for me to watch it all at this point in my life.
What was your all-time favorite high school football game or play?
Well, the game I would probably say would be winning the state championship against Kerry Collins and in Hershey when it felt like 50 below. The
wind chill minus 20.
Minus 20. The ground was as hard as cement, and I'm sure a lot of people haven't caught a Kerry Collins ball, but just being around that thing when it's minus 20 and he's thrown it 50 miles an hour, that's intimidating. But I'll say that was probably the most memorable game. The most memorable play for me was when we were in North Hills. We were down,
26-7.
And the winning touchdown, I was just a hook right in the middle, caught it, and I was turning. And as soon as I turned, my knee hit the ball, so I was fumbling it. And then I finally got control and went in for the scoring touchdown. So that's the most memorable play, but the most memorable game has to be being crowned state champions.
That game he's talking about at North Hills, it was at Mortarelli Stadium. It was on national television. Sports Channel America at that time was doing a high school game of the week. And I don't know that they've ever had a bigger crowd in Mortarelli. And it was on national television. So that was a keeper.
That was. Now, I'll say this much. The best part about that game is I really didn't come alive until the second half. The first half, let's say I was in a little fog. But the second half, we as a team came alive. And I think that was what propelled us onto the state championship, because we knew no matter how we started, we could finish a game, and it was up to us. It didn't matter who we were playing and what they were doing. As long as we took care of our business and were on top of our game, we could compete and beat anybody, and that gave us the drive to know that.
What's it feel like to have that type of success? You work so hard, and then you have the success. What's it feel like afterwards?
It validates what Coach had been putting in our head from day one. It's up to you. If you work hard, and then if not only do you work hard, but you hold your teammates accountable to work hard. And we held each other accountable. So when we knew when it was 26-7 in that huddle, we all looked around like, wait a minute, all those steps we ran, all those sprints we did, it's for a reason. It's for us to come together, and I can depend on you. I can look left, I can look right and say, I'm dependent on you just like you're dependent on me, and we're going to go lay it on the line for each other. So it just brought us together, and that's what I think bred success for us, because we didn't want to let each other down or the coach down or our community.
Is that easy to get across to a student, that the hard work's going to pay off?
Not when they're bright. It's, sometimes it's like anything else. You deal with different people, and some get the message and some don't. To go back to that game for a second, it was game 5 of the 89 season. We hadn't been scored upon. The last 4 games of 88 and the first 4 games of 89, we hadn't been scored upon. And now we're up there at the stadium, and they put 26 on us in the first half. So, a lesser group could have panicked, or they hadn't been in that position. But that wasn't a lesser group, Doug.
We knew how to respond, and again, that turned the light on. Like, okay, even if we don't have a cakewalk game or a game that we're in control, if we have some face adversity, we can flip the switch, become tighter, and just go ahead and do what we have to do to get the result that we know we need to obtain.
How much is it that the team, the players figure it out, or how much is it that the players? What's the coach what's he gonna come up with now that's gonna be so magical to turn this thing around for us?
It's the belief the players have in each other, but also that the coaches are going to put us in the correct situations to be successful. And that's something that was never questioned because of the success coaches had for his career, and success breeds success. So we knew that what they're going to put us in situations to be successful, but we got to hold ourselves accountable not to let them down. And that's how we propelled, and that's how we looked at it. It's like, we don't want to let each other down. We don't want to let coach down. And then after a while, once you have success, you start living up to that expectation of being successful. And for us, it wasn't a burden. Everybody's like, oh, is that pressure? No, that motivated us. That was the key thing, is like, hey, we want to be better than last year's team. We took it as a sense of pride and something that we needed to strive and do better, instead of looking at it as a burden, like, oh, they expect us to win. We're like, no, we want to be undefeated. We want to be number one in the nation. That was our goal.
Let's move on. He went to Pitt and was the starting free safety for what? 2 years?
3 years.
3 years.
Yep.
I think we forgot to mention earlier on that you also had a stint with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yes.
And what, you had 2 Super Bowl rings?
2 Super Bowl rings. I was there from 99 to 2010 as their pro personnel coordinator, and it's magical years. I mean, there's to work for your hometown team and start as an intern and then come back and handle their pro personnel department, go to 3 Super Bowls, win 2 of them. It's just something that you can't write in a movie script. It was unbelievable. And then that propelled me to get a chance to be an assistant GM and then a GM in the Buffalo Bills. So football has been very, very good to myself, to my family. And there's lessons that I learned as a football player that made me, I think, not only the successful person I have been in football, but in life in general, as a husband, as a father. And that's what I always think when you see everybody says, oh, athletes, and if an athlete's been, no matter what sport you are, you've had success or you've played it for so long, there's attributes that you learn as an athlete that you're taught, that are instilled in you, that translate to life and business. So I'm a big proponent of athletics for youth, and you don't have to be a professional athlete or have the skill set, but I think there's some life lessons learned in athletics that can carry people no matter what, if it's a lifelong dream or not. But it can propel you to success in life.
I didn't mean to skip past Pitt too much.
Oh, no.
You got a good Pitt story of
I do. We were we had a lot. We didn't have too much success on the field when I was at Pitt, but we were in a tight game against University of Maryland. It was 91, so sophomore, my first year starting, and it was we were up by like 2 or 3. It was the fourth quarter. Maryland had the ball and they were driving, and they were in our territory. It was like 3rd and 7 on our 40. And I remember Sean Gilbert. He came in the huddle and he's like, listen, it's time for us to make a play. We don't want to have to give it to our offense for them to win. We take pride in ourselves. Let's make this happen. And that next play, he came around the corner, beat his guy, and sacked, strip fumble. We end up winning the game. And it was that type of thing that lets you know that when you see somebody that has ability and can say, I'm going to do something and flip the switch and do it, it took me back to what we had as a team, and we knew if it's us and we want to flip the switch, we can get it done. So those are a lot of just friendships and being around Alex Van Pelt, Kervin Richards, Sean Gilbert, Ricardo McDonald. I mean, there's just a litany of Steve Israel, of players that I was around that you saw that Coach is very generous. As a scout, I know I was more an intellectual player than I would say a skilled player. So what propelled me to success was my intellect and my instincts. But to see guys with that superior athletic ability and the drive and the instinct like a Sean Gilbert, it was impressive. So to be around people like that, that's it. When it comes down to, I think life's all about people and relationships. And that was, not only at Upper St. Clair, but Pitt. And throughout my life, the football has brought me some nice relationships and been around some incredible people.
When you started with the Steelers organization, and you're at a lower point of the power structure, how do you find a way to say, hey, I'm going to find a way to contribute to this organization, even though I'm not the coach, I'm not the general manager, I'm not the head guy? How do you deal with that?
Well, being in a team sport, you already know everybody has a responsibility, and it's a wheel, and you're a spoke in that wheel. And you need to be the best at what you do to help this team win. And it's been instilled from Coach and my parents is don't ever look at your next job or what you want to do next. Whatever you're tasked to do, be the best at that, and especially in a team sport. And if that helps the team win, winning takes care of all. And it takes care of your future success. It takes care of the future success of the team and the organization and in the city. So you never look past the job that you're been asked to do.
With the Bills as general manager, what that's got to be a challenging experience to know you're the guy now. You're at the top of the list now.
Again, and I hate to be a broken record, it goes back to things that have been instilled with me in sports is you never think of the magnitude of the job or what you've been asked to do. You just think about doing it to the best of your ability. Because if you sit back and think of the magnitude of, you're presiding over a company, a $1 billion company, you're got a $180 to $90 million payroll that you oversee a scouting department, you work with a coaching department, the trainers. So all of that, if you really sit back, can be overwhelming. But if you can tune that out and say, every day, I got to win today. I got to be better today than I was yesterday, no matter what it is. That's how I think you got to attack the job, because if not, again, it would be very overwhelming, and then you could get paralyzed, and then that's the last thing you need to do. You need to be able to make a decision, get the information, and I always say, let the information make the decision. You don't make the decision.
What was a highlight up there in Buffalo?
I think that the highlight to me is they have such extraordinary fans, and the fan support there. Coming into a game and seeing how they support, and we didn't have a lot of success. I think as when I was there, we were maybe 2 or 3 games under 500, but just the loyalty of the fans and their support, and even when you're out in the community, if you're doing any community engagement, the love they have for that team, and any joy, and when we'd win and you'd walk out of the stadium and everybody was just excited just to see everybody else. Because not to toot my own, I've had success, won a state championship, 2 Super Bowls, but to see a team that hadn't been there and try to give them a taste of victory, that was, to me, not only to the fans, but the people in the organization, every victory was special in that way to me.
Is it true that sports organizations that have won before, that have a legacy, have a leg up on those organizations that don't?
I think they do. Only reason why is because when you haven't had success, the goal is success. When you had success, the standard is success. So for St. Clair, the standard's the standard. It's Whitfield and States. That's the standard. It's not the goal. That's what we expect. And that's the only difference. Now, once you start having success, then you start moving that needle to say, this is our standard.
Sounds like Mike Tomlin talking about the standard.
It is. And I look at it this way. When you go into business, I've been transitioning in a little business worlds here and there, and you have some people you work with that when the boss is around, they're like, oh no, we got to do it this, and they get real tight and they try to be perfect. I don't want to work with a person like that. I want to work with a person that their work is the same if the boss is there or if it's not there. Their standard is that high. And I think, well, I know I learned that from athletics, and I just think that's how you should go through life.
Pretty good stuff.
Great stuff. What did you gather from your parents? What did they instill in you?
They taught me right from wrong. Not saying I always did right, but they taught me right from wrong. Work. It's like breathing. You just do it. Don't think about it. And to treat people the way you want to be treated. I think that's the one thing when I talked to my father when I was about to be a father, and he said, just teach your child right from wrong. Teach them to treat people the way they want to be treated, and then give them opportunities that you weren't exposed to. And my father did that, and I can't think between him and my mom and just loving people. It's a lot easier to go through life loving people than hating people. It takes a lot of energy. Maybe I'm lazy, but I'd rather love people than to hate people. And if someone doesn't like me, then I just don't pay attention to them or give them the benefit of the doubt, because I like to be positive, and it's better to go through life with a smile than a frown.
I should take notes. His parents were great people. They moved from Upper St. Clair, and I haven't seen them in a while. But
20 years they've been in Phoenix. My mom, after I graduated college, she walked in. I can still see it today because I was actually helping coach during the summer, and I was studying before I got into football, I was studying my Series 7 and 63 to be a stockbroker. And I studied during the day, go to practice, help them out. And I just remember coming back, my dad and I were sitting at the kitchen table. My mom walked in because her father lived in Arizona, in Tucson, and she had been out there a couple times, and she says, you're out of college. Guess what? Next month I'm moving to Phoenix. And she looked at my dad. She goes, you can come or you can stay, but I'm going. And it's been over 20 years since then. They haven't been back, but she loves the heat.
You'd have to.
Yes, no doubt.
Coach mentioned that you guys that played on the Upper St. Clair football team, you still see a lot of each other.
Some of my best friends, like I said, Kevin Ory was our free safety, #1 pick for the Cubs. Played at IU. I saw him yesterday. I was Kevin McKeever, Phil Dunn. I'm actually going to see Mike Phillips this week. My sister-in-law lives in Chicago, so we're driving there. So I'll see. So yeah, we're a tight-knit group, and I know a lot of people that have friends from college. I do have friends from college, but my heart are my buddies from high school.
I see evidence of that a few times a year.
And it must be gratifying for you to...
Very much. What was the name of the tackle that played at Pitt and
Reuben
Buffalo?
Brown?
Yeah,
Reuben. Yes. He was.
We had another experience, Lanny. There was an All-America high school game when he graduated that summer. And the guy that formed the game was trying to emulate the McDonald's All-America game. But to get to the point, I was the head coach, and Doug was on that team, and we went out to Reno, Nevada for a high school All-America game, which was a great experience. Reuben played. And Jerome Bettis played.
How about this, Lanny? I was Jerome Bettis' fullback. I was 190. He was about 240. So can you imagine that? I'm sitting in a three-point stand, and he's the tailback. But there's some incredible players out there. Kerry Collins. It was
Bledsoe was the quarterback of the other team of the West.
Yeah, I remember on that game. Not to cut you off, Coach. There's two hits in my career that I will never, ever forget. One was in the Wolverina, and the other one was at that high school All-American game. I took a belly up, and there was a safety going to UCLA, Othello Henderson, and he hit me so hard, I went numb. It was one of those where I know this got hurt, but it was just so painful, I didn't even feel the pain. But then I thought back to my dad. You got to enjoy pain to play this game. So I got back up, got in the huddle, and kept it going.
Did you ever wish you played another sport besides football?
I played some other sports, but I knew football was my
In high school you played?
In high school, yeah. I ran track, tried to get speed. I wrestled a little bit, but once wrestling, I didn't want to start keeping the weight down. I wanted to keep doing weight. Did a little baseball, but switched from baseball to track. So I knew football was it, and all the other sports I played were more trying to get me beneficial to increasing my ability on the football field.
With all the success that you've had, how'd you not get a big head?
Because from the parents, and don't read your press clippings. Right there. Do not read your press clippings. Stop reading them. Because the one thing you do notice, especially nowadays with social media and just the information is 24/7 nowadays, that no matter what you do, someone's going to think you're a complete idiot. You'll not be able to convince everybody or prove to everybody that you are, every move you make is good. So you realize that you may think you did something good, and it may turn out good, but someone's going to say, "Oh, you should have did this, did that." And one of the stories I'll tell you real quick is I was talking to Phil Dunn, close friend of mine, been in his wedding, know his kids, and we had just come back from Tampa winning the Super Bowl. Santonio Holmes, one of the great plays in the back of the end zone to win us the Super Bowl. James Harrison runs it back. So that Sunday, Phil calls me Monday. So I was like, "Hey, Phil, we're traveling back, and then we got the parade on Tuesday, and then we'll start our meetings." And Phil, on the phone, one of my best friends, loves the Steelers, says, "You guys don't need to go to the parade. You need to be in meetings right now. You're already 2 months behind everybody else. Start working on next year." That's when I knew that no matter what happens, somebody's going to say you need to do better. So you can always do better, and that's how you can. To me, that's why I never got a big head, because you can always do better.
Mm-hmm. Where'd you meet your wife, Stephanie?
I met her actually here in Pittsburgh. She's a Plum native. Yes. So she was doing some work for the Steelers, and we met as friends, and then we stayed friends for a while, and we were actually friends for probably 5 to 7 years before we even started dating. So we've been together about 17 years now.
She's from what high school?
Plum.
From Plum, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So,
children are wonderful. Tell me about Mila.
She is 6 years old, and she's going on probably 26. But the best thing, I mean, it's one of those things where, for me, like you said, I've had some success, but I think that's the biggest success I'll ring the bell about is my marriage and being a father, and that's one subject that I kind of fumble over my words because it's just a special thing, and anybody that's been a parent and is a parent knows it's the best thing you can ever do.
And so is 6 too early for you to start telling her about the things that your dad told you that were necessary to be successful?
The thing that I get in trouble with, though, is she's a girl, so I have to kind of phrase it in different ways. My wife will always catch me like, "You're talking to her like you're talking to a player," or something like that. I do. It's just that's how it is. So she's like, she's not going to understand that. So I have to kind of present it in different ways. But yes, never too early to instill some basic just truths about life.
And give me an example. How do you broach it differently with a daughter? Then what do you mean?
So here's a perfect. For me, it was, if you want something, it's how bad do you want it? Because if you want something, you're going to do whatever it takes to go get it. So my daughter will say, "Hey, Dad, I want this." "Well, how bad do you want it?" She's like, "You can't say that." So I'll have to say, "Okay, if you want it, what do you think you need to do to accomplish that?"
Right.
So,
Is she headed towards athletics at all?
She is. She hasn't found anything that she truly, really likes. She's done swimming, soccer, ballet, taekwondo, but what we see though, she really enjoys running, and at this age, the first running group I think we found was 8 years old. So I think she's going to be more into the running. But she's athletic. She's, as you know, she's got that gait, that light gait, springy. So little football turn there.
I think I've seen that gait.
Yeah. So she's got some athletic ability. She hasn't found that sport that just grabs her yet.
Doug, we're out of time. Two things for you as we wrap up. Number one, thank you for being a part of our show. And number two, Upper St. Clair is extremely proud of what you've accomplished in your life, and I'm sure you're very proud of what you've accomplished.
Well, no, I like I said from the outset, I wouldn't have accomplished it if it wasn't for the people of Upper St. Clair being there for me all the way and teaching me how to be successful and what it takes to be successful. So I owe everything to Coach, my family, and this township and this community.
Doug, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Doug Whaley joining us on 15241 Today Talk. Linda Dudzinski, our coordinating producer, Glenn Ward, our producer director, and we thank you for joining us.